Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a great and beautiful, awesome morning it is. Yes, why? Because our Creator breathed life into you this morning, breathed life into me this morning, woke you up this morning, woke me up this morning. Why? Because our Creator uses broken, wounded, and shattered people like me and like you to rescue wounded, shattered, and broken people like me and like you. So, this is day 105 of the Free to Hope Presents 12 Steps Applied to COVID-19. Yes, the 12 steps developed by Alcoholics Anonymous over 80 plus years ago. But I've been a proud and humble member for 31 years as of February the 23rd of 2021. So I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but boy, am I happy to practice all these spiritual principles and all my affairs one day at a time for 31 years. And for that, I give my Creator all the glory, delivering me from drugs, alcoholism, prostitution, and all the attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, choices, decisions that went along with those lifestyles. But on February the 23rd, he said, that's enough. And guess what? He's going to say, that's enough one day regarding this COVID-19 and its variants that are among the entire human race, which is why I'm sitting before you this morning and day 105, because that is the amount of days I and 7 of my family members have survived COVID-19. Yes, I have been sitting here before you since April of 2020 as a direct result of an article by Dr. Scott T. Allison on March the 31st of 2020 in Psychology Today, where he said we can benefit from the wisdom of the 12-step programs. And on April the 1st, I hit that go live button because I was inspired and directed by the Spirit to share with you how you can learn, evaluate, apply, and practice these spiritual steps in all your affairs from a spiritual angle, combating any and all physical conditions. So if you want to go back to April the 1st and see the beginning of me presenting to you the 12 steps with my experience, my strength, my hope, and my wisdom, please do so. I will be showing parts of it each day just to show you the transformation, the journey, and my makeshift studio upstairs in my bedroom, sometimes in my kitchen, right? But also, if you want to go to December the 3rd of 2020, when I was plagued with COVID-19, huh? You want to see a picture? Are you from Missouri? Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me show you, okay? This is what I look like on December the 3rd, and the progression of my recovery is next to that picture. So I know I had the experience, strength, and hope, and wisdom and lack of wisdom, bad choices and bad decisions regarding my contributing to COVID-19 and infecting members of my family. So that's why, using Dr. Scott T. Allison's article, as well as Jason Waller's breakdown of the 12 spiritual principles as he dealt with his alcoholism, I now too share my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, lack of wisdom, bad choices, bad decisions regarding the 12 steps and applying them to COVID-19 and taking the simple suggestions of the CDC that says, listen, wear a mask, wash your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. You want to see that too? Yes, I dispelled all the the rumors. I did my research. I did my asking of questions in order to make a sound and rational decision of getting vaccinated. So this is a shot of my final second shot of COVID-19.
Look at it. She's at the red button. Gotcha. All right. Okay. Let's get you a little shot of hope here, my dear.
She said shot of
There
hope.
you go.
Shot of hope. So that's what you are seeing. And like I said, you may be from Missouri, and I wanted to show you how I got vaccinated. Yes. Okay. Grandma doing her TV show. You want to go watch Granddaddy, or you want to sit here with me? Yes, you want to sit with me? Yeah. Okay. Here is one of the grandchildren. Yes, I had infected some of my grandchildren. Fortunately, she was not one of them, but the other 2-year-old was infected with COVID-19 up until the age of 78, which is her granddaddy upstairs. And so I thank God for letting us survive the devastating impact of COVID-19, its outcome and fatality. So before we go on, we want to pay homage to our Creator. We want to pay homage to the entire human race as we simultaneously go through this COVID-19 experience. It is a knee-bowing experience for everyone around the world. It will not discriminate, but there is a solution. And they are found in the 12-step programs, whether it be Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Al-Anon Anonymous, now COVID-19 Anonymous. So let's take 30 seconds just to give a moment of silence and homage to our Creator, and for those who are in one shape, form, or fashion being affected by the devastating conditions, symptoms of COVID-19. And so as a result of paying homage in our 12-step program, I know what it means to give a moment of silence for the still sick and suffering until our Creator says enough is enough, because only He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end of this pandemic. Join me for 30 seconds of silence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of my Creator, our Creator, and those who are in this world around the globe being impacted and affected by the severity, the symptoms, the fatalities of COVID-19 and these variants. And from what they say, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Okay. So let me start by acknowledging my sponsors. The information is free to the public. However, I am trying to become syndicated. So if anybody has any leads or instructions or guidelines so that we can touch as many lives as possible, so that we can share with people the importance of washing your hands, wearing the mask, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested and getting vaccinated, because we can and we will and we must stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. So I want to thank my sponsors. Let's go here. And let's go here. And they are MDB Associates, Patchwork Human Services, Levante and Dorsey and Associates, Academy of Peace, Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant, Free to Hope. I have some more, and I'm waiting on you. And they are Women Do Hall, transportation services. Mr. C's Barbershop is responsible for my crown. Some of the outfits I wear is from Morgan's of Delaware. My Afrocentric attire is from Lady T at Morgan's of Delaware. Jewelry by Catherine Butler. And also, I have to add Jones Accessory in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And last but not least, Devon Light Recovery Center Supportive Housing. They parallel along with the information that Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Bob, and Bill W. realized that people with the disease of alcoholism need a spiritual awakening that is created by a spiritual experience that will increase your spiritual maturity and achieve a spiritual transformation to give you that psychic change in order to practice the simple suggestions of the CDC. And so as a result, Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Bob, and Bill W. said what y'all need for your alcoholism, and we can apply it to COVID-19, right, is divine providence and divine intervention that will bring about a divine life. I also mentioned my two resources, which are Dr. Scott T. Allison, where he focused on psychology today on 7 points: letting go of control, patience, keeping the focus on oneself, trust, living in the present, social connections, and service to others. My other resource is Jason Waller. He breaks down the 12 spiritual principles in an awesome and simplistic way that a child can understand them. So even though he applies the breakdown to alcoholism and drug addiction, we are now applying them to COVID-19. So what I want to do now is to show you a little bit of my early podcast where the emphasis is now on principle number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So during these podcasts, you'll be getting a little bit of the earlier principles and the ones that we are talking about today, which is the continuation of recovery principle number 8. So watch, but listen. Okay? All right. For me and the power to carry that out. Many of us will say, well, I have an agenda today. I have things to do today. But guess who has the plan? Every morning we are dealt a hand. Every morning. If you're card players, you don't know what's under those cards. But every day we are dealt a hand. Will you be able to play your hand? Will I be able to play my hand? You know why I'll be able to play my hand? Because whatever hand I am dealt, using these 12 recovery principles is going to help me get through any and all things. Because number one, I'm seeking help from where help is coming from. I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs. I am challenged to promptly admit, promptly acknowledge. Yes. So why wouldn't I want to improve that? And why wouldn't I want his will to be done? It needs to be revealed because in the serenity prayer, God grant me that serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Where's that wisdom going to come from? Praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. So, recovery principle number 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand him. Okay. Recovery principle number 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message of the 12 recovery principles to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Having had a spiritual awakening. not a physical, a spiritual awakening. As a result of these 12 recovery principles, we try to carry this message. I'm trying to carry it to you and to you. But I'm definitely practicing them in all of my affairs. So those are what the 12 recovery principles are. So let's get, for the remaining time that we have, on recovery principle number 3. But before I do that, many of you know that for me, total transparency is the key. Practicing total honesty is to be transparent. And so before I continue, I want to be transparent. No makeup, no. I took my bracelets off, y'all. And guess what? I'm taking my wig off. I am okay in my own skin. I want to present to you who I am on the physical, but more importantly, that you not look at the messenger, but you listen to the message. So that wig, I don't normally wear a wig anywhere, but I use it to prove a point. That I don't need the mask on. Because that's an outside job. I need to reveal what's on the inside. So their own self be true. So let's get to recovery principle number 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, the Creator, if you will, as we understand or understood him, her, the force. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So let me use my example of how I made that decision. I made decisions all day long. From the time I woke up, the decision, am I going to get up or am I going to lay here? Am I going to go to the bathroom or am I going to pee in the bed? Am I going to brush my teeth first or am I going to get a cup of coffee?
I've seen the baby before.
All day long.
You like a baby? Yeah, I was like a baby.
Am I going to go left or am I going to go right? What am I going to put on today?
Wait a minute.
Am I going to work today? Am I going to pray today? Am I going to sing today? We make decisions all day long. You make a decision not to make a decision. How about that?
That's not you. That's not me? No.
Guess what? For me,
yeah, that's me. Okay.
I made unhealthy decisions.
Come on now.
Unknowingly to me in the beginning. Oh, I'm grown. 17 years old. I know what I want. I know what's good for me. I'm making a decision to leave my mom's house. I ain't got to listen to her. I ain't got to do what my dad said. I'm grown. I'm doing my addiction. Oh, I can drink. Oh yeah, I can drink. Go to the drug dealer. Give me that bag. Give me that. Making decisions all day long. In hindsight now, those decisions had severe consequences. So I need to learn to make decisions that are going to have benefits and rewards.
Okay.
And not consequences.
It's okay.
That are within my control. Or in some cases, not control. And so in recovery, we learn that as a result of the first step, we admitted we were polished over and that our lives had become unmanageable, right? Then we did recovery principle number 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to soundness of mind. And eventually that power greater than me were my counselors, were the people in rehab, were the people at my AA meeting. They were a power greater than me. They was giving me information. They were providing me with tools and things that I could use to make a better decision. based on my soundness of mind. So that was a power greater than me. And eventually, that power greater than me, I was able to identify as God. My God, the Creator. So, as a result of him removing that obsession and that compulsion of my alcoholism and drug addiction, I didn't know what was before me, y'all. But I knew I didn't want to go underneath that parked car where I was 30 years ago. I didn't want to go back there. Hell to the no, I didn't want to go back there. And underneath that car, when I cried out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life or show me a better way, that I was set on a path of recovery. I just had to make a decision to stay on this path of recovery. Yes. So when the obsession and the compulsion was moved, once I admitted that my life had become unmanageable and was totally out of control because of drinking and drugging, that I needed to put that thing down, those things down, and find out why I picked them up in the first place. I needed to deal with the inside issue and not rely on the external things to ignore, escape, hide from what was going on inside. And that power greater than me, because I was the great I am. My dad taught us, you're responsible for what happens to you. There was no conception of a caring and loving God. You are responsible. But guess what? Me took me underneath that parked car 30 years ago. So I ain't as big as bad as I thought I am or was. And neither are you. Truth be told. But it's okay. Because once I identified those powers that were greater than me, I began to be restored to soundness of mind. Then I started making decisions to keep going back to my meetings, to keep going back to counseling, to keep going. You want to call it a crutch? Call it what you want. Alcohol, drugs, sex, those are crutches, aren't they? But the consequences are very severe compared to the other type of crutches. Because we are creatures of habit. Yes, we are. So I make a decision to go to my meetings every day after 30 years. I make a decision to pray to the God of my understanding every day, throughout the day, all day. I make a decision to practice doing the right thing. I make a decision to embrace this thing called life because I have a new set of tools. I'm not running anymore. I'm not fearful anymore. In the past, fear meant forget everything and run. No, these 12 recovery principles said no, face everything and recover. Face everything and rejoice. Face everything and rebuild. But I need to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to those powers that were greater than me, that help restore me to sanity, that's given me the peace, that's given me the serenity, that's given me soundness of mind to continue making the right decisions. And so I have no problems practicing every day just to make the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of. That's the key word. We are turning our lives over to the care of the God that we understand. He took care of me during my addiction. He's definitely taking care of me in my recovery. So why wouldn't I want to make that decision? You're only making a decision. As I said, we make decisions all day long. So as a result of being freed from that obsession and that compulsion, recognizing my life had become unmanageable. And so the same thing with this coronavirus pandemic. It is making people's lives unmanageable because we're powerless over it. But there's a power greater than ourselves that can help restore us to soundness of mind. And recovery principle Number 3 says, let me make that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of the God that I understand. Even if you don't believe. And I say for those who don't believe, how much can you really change? Nothing. All you have to have is a desire and a willingness to change. So recovery principle number 3 is just making a decision. To trust, to have faith, to not give up. Make that decision. Because when you make that positive decision, you're going to have a positive outcome in the midst of the storm. You're going to have a positive outcome because you're not relying on you. You're relying on a power greater than you. Because in our past, and before we went and are going through this thing, there was a whole lot of power greater than us that we made a decision to turn our will and my life over to. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the drug dealer, to the job when I was prostituting. I made a decision to leave my kids. I made a decision, yes, all those things. But until I got into recovery and started practicing these 12 recovery principles, I make better decisions now. Because the decisions have a better outcome. Not just physically, but it starts spiritually. Because I've learned through this recovery process to empty what's inside and expose it outside. So that I could be used, molded, shaped, to be prepared for any and everything that life has to offer. Are you ready to make that decision to turn your will and over to the God of your understanding today? You can. I know I will. So that concludes the presentation for today. And tomorrow we are going to be reviewing recovery principle number 4 that states made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. We'll talk about recovery principle number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. So y'all know by this time it's 7 o'clock and I need to prepare to go to my 12-step meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been going to for the last 30 years. For 1 hour gives me everything I need to live the other 23 hours spiritually. And when it's spiritual, I make a decision to practice doing the right thing, saying the right thing. I've learned to respond opposed to react. We can make that decision. So make a decision to share this on a watch party. Make the decision to share it with other people. Make the decision to tune in tomorrow. And if you're available at 7:30 to... All right. So are you ready to make a decision to wear a mask, wash your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated? Are you willing to make that decision that will help save your life, the lives of your loved ones, and the lives of others? Aren't we worth it? Aren't you worth it? I know I am, which is why on December the 3rd of 2020, the Spirit allowed me to make that decision to share this journey with you so that we can share the information of how not to contract COVID-19, how not to experience the devastating and severity symptoms of COVID-19, how not to infect others with COVID-19 by taking these simple suggestions. And so by giving you this information of the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, we can apply them to COVID-19 and these variants until our Creator says enough is enough. In our 12-step program, they say some of us must die in order for some of us to live. Why? Because of people like me who, before I contracted COVID-19, I had defiance, I was rebellious, I was self-centered. I was stubborn. I was egotistical. I was prideful in spite of having the 12 steps at my hand, but chose not to apply them to COVID-19, which is why I know I contributed to contracting it and infecting members of my family. But I have been restored to soundness of mind. And I am making the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of my God as I understand it, but also turning it over to the CDC suggestions. All right? So make that decision to do the next right thing of wearing a mask, washing your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. All right, so now we are going to continue with recovery principle number 8, where it states, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So let me provide the overview. Let me provide the summary of how we got to step 8 so that you can follow along. But if you need to go back to April the 1st, or starting at December the 3rd, you can catch up, or you can extract the information from Dr. Scott T. Allison's article in Psychology Today, or go to jasonwaller.com and extract the breakdown of all the steps. And we are changing the area of focus from alcohol and drugs to COVID-19. All right. So as it stated in the 1st through the 7th step, 1, we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives has become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power or powers greater than us can restore us to sanity, soundness of mind. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, became entirely ready to have God remove all defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. And 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So I shared with you how we broke down the narrative of Jason Waller's and replaced the area of focus from alcohol and drugs to COVID-19. Now, for some reason, I cannot find my first page, which is okay, all right, because I'm going to start here, all right? It said, oh, here it is. So I did now. I'm good. I'm good. In other words, we're going to get recovery principle number 4, where we listed our liabilities and our assets, right? Liabilities are character defects. And we were able to go back as far as we could to identify where those attitudes, ideas, behaviors, actions, decisions were formulated, what happened, the circumstances, who was involved. And so there you should, like us in recovery, have a list of people and organizations or agencies that we have caused harm to before and during our active addiction. Yes. And guess what? Even up until now, we are still causing harm in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Think about it. So when I'm applying my 4th step and developing my 8th step as to identify those individuals that I caused harm to, and contributing to contracting COVID-19 and infecting others, like members of my family from as young as 2 years old up until 78 years old. Yes, so that 4th step will help you identify that list. Now, they say that when we make our list, we have 3 columns, right? And the first column is those that you are really ready and willing to make amends to them when the time comes, right? That second column, you can identify the individuals you may make amends to. Why? Because they harmed you in some kind of way, right? With this COVID-19 thing, taking it for granted like you and I do or did. And that third column where it says we will never make amends to these people, but we put them on the list, right? And by the time we start with the first column and get to the end, we will gain more willingness to be willing to make amends to the column of maybes. When we go through that list, we'll become even more willing to make amends to those we said we will never make amends to regarding this COVID-19. Can you imagine what people are feeling and going through? How much resentment and hatred they have? How much pain they are going through as a result of all the extenuating circumstances that contributed to over 500,000 people dying from COVID-19, and that's reported. Those who are suffering right now, do you know how much they are going through? Their loved ones can't see them, can't touch them. Do you ever imagine how they feel? How much, they have within them? How are they going to express that? How are they going to relieve that? Are they going to look for outside crutches to deal with inside issues? No. We're going to apply these 12 spiritual principles to any and all physical conditions, including COVID-19. But they will tell you that if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, like I had to tell my family members. If I just did not take COVID-19 for granted, if I just practiced wearing that mask continuously and consistently, if I just practiced washing my hands all the time and for the duration that it suggested, if I just practiced social distancing by not going to that park, by not going to that family gathering, if I just got tested, I might have known sooner. If I contacted anybody that I was around to inform them, they probably could have avoided a lot of things. Yes. And so we need to put everyone on that list. And guess who goes on the list first? You, me. Because in the 8th step, it says, made a list of all persons we had harmed. And guess who I harmed the most? Me. During my addiction. During when I found out those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, choices, decisions was no longer working for me. Why? Because they were defects of character. And so me having that attitude of being prideful and egotistical and defiant, I know what I want. I know what's best for me. Through that kind of attitude, ideas and behaviors and decisions and choices, I found myself underneath a parked car. No, not found myself. I put myself underneath a parked car at the age of 34. How did I get underneath this parked car at the age of 34? Underneath a parked car? Yes. But it was my Creator who met me underneath the parked car, prepared me from underneath that parked car, and delivered me from underneath that parked car for the reason I am sitting before you today. Yes. So I need to apply these 12 spiritual principles to me first. Learn how to forgive myself, learn how to be patient and tolerant with myself, learn how to be kind to myself. And when I practice these principles in all my affairs towards me, then I am capable of practicing them with you. Because if I don't do that, I am still trying to be a people pleaser, having the PPDs. Yes, people pleasing disease. So when I put myself at the top of that list and become willing to make amends to myself, then I can make amends. and be willing to make amends to my loved ones and even to you when the time becomes available. So the 8th step just says make a list. Write down the situation, the circumstances, so that we can identify what type of amends to make. We make that list without going and looking on step 9 where it says made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure you, them, or others. But the 8th step says stay right here, stay focused. All the steps are in line for a reason. Each of them have their spiritual purpose. Each one deals with deflating the ego. Yes, each one is asking you to be humble and to practice some humility. That's why they are spiritual in nature. So do you have enough willingness, enough honesty, enough open-mindedness to list individuals and agencies, organizations that you have caused harm to in your entire life when you actually apply these principles to all your affairs? But right now, we are applying them to COVID-19. All right, so it says here, now this is Jason Waller's template. I read it through and I focused on the alcoholism, but now I am applying the 12 steps, particularly step 8, to COVID-19. So before we go into some other areas, let me state what he is saying here, and we're going to change the area of focus. He says, for your 8th step list, you should include every name you think of, even if you're not sure that you owe any amends in that particular situation. The whole point of making this thorough list is to obtain that freedom that is waiting for us so that we can look the world in the eye and not be shameful and walking with our heads down. That's why we want to make amends to any and everybody. But before we can do that, we have to identify who they are, what the situation was, what part that I play in it, and what type of amends do I become willing to make. Freedom from recovery, emerge empowered, to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. So if I don't free myself, if I don't give hope to myself, I can't help set you free, and I can't give you no hope. So it says you can put your name on that list with an awareness that the way we make amends to ourselves I didn't know that statement was next. But it just goes to show you when you yield to the Spirit, it reveals to you that you're on the right track. Because this next sentence that I didn't know was there proves what I just said before I read it. I'll start it again. You can put your name on that list with an awareness that the way we make amends to ourselves is the ongoing process of stopping irresponsible and self-destructive behaviors. So by me putting myself on that list and became willing to make amends to me first for being defiant, for being rebellious, right? For being self-centered and selfish regarding COVID-19. I needed to forgive myself because I shared with you back in recovery principle number 4, the character defect that I had a resentment against COVID-19, and I had a resentment against myself because I didn't take it seriously. And so, and recovery principle number 5, that's when I talk with someone to get to the exact nature of why I had that resentment against COVID-19 and why I had that resentment against me, because it was all based in fear. And fear of not getting what I want and not doing what I want to do. Fear of not being accepted. Fear of being judged or criticized. Right? But we know the acronym for fear is no longer forget everything and run, but to face everything and recover. And so in recovery principle number 5, I put that fear and ask the God of my understanding and letting him know I'm presenting myself to you just as I am, all defected up, so that you can remove any and all character defects that prevent you from using me, and helping my fellow human beings. Remove any and all of them. And then in recovery principle number 7, when I find myself falling short, like don't want to wear the mask, like forgetting to wash my hands, like forgetting to social distance, I humbly ask him to remove that shortcoming, make a about face, make a U-turn, and go back and do the next right thing. Humbly ask him to remove that shortcoming. Yes. And I'm reminded in step 8 why. When I make that list of all I have harmed, including myself. Okay? So he says here, when you feel it's pretty thorough, your list, take the list and break it into 4 categories with your sponsor. Now, with my sponsor and doing my 8-step in Alcoholics Anonymous, but also now doing it regarding COVID-19 Anonymous, I took the suggestions that's offered here. Whereas before, I used the 3 columns that my particular sponsor gave me in dealing with my alcoholism. But in dealing with COVID-19, Jason Waller's, his resources and injecting his experience, strength, and hope suggest 4 categories. So let's see what they say. It says, people to make amends to now. Who's on your list that you can make amends to now regarding COVID-19? Once you are on a good, stable and secure footing regarding COVID-19, you have that psychic change that is needed to be restored to soundness of mind. You are humble enough, you have enough humility to realize that the mistakes that you and I made regarding COVID-19, we have been restored to sanity, and I'm on great footing so that I can and become willing to make amends to anybody right now. Okay? The second area, he says, people to make partial amends to in order to not injure them or others. Regarding COVID-19, people to make partial amends to in order to not injure them or others. Remember, you are only making the list, right? That's part 1 of step 8. As a result of you making that list, you are saying in time and when the opportunity presents itself, you will become willing to make amends to them all in one way, shape, form, or fashion. Yes. But in that second column, it says people to make partial amends to in order to not injure them or others or even you. Okay. It says here, people to make amends to later. That's your third column or category. People that you can identify who you know you caused harm to in one way, shape, form, or fashion regarding COVID-19 in any way that you can identify, that you can make amends to them later, right? But they're on the list. And remember to describe the situation, the circumstances, and identify the part that you played in it so that you'll know what type of amends to make, whether it be direct or indirect amends. but you want to make sure that you don't cause harm, additional harm to others, to them, or even to you. The fourth category, it says, people we may never be able to make direct personal contact with. And yes, I'm getting ready to go there. I'm getting ready to go there. I'm getting ready to go there. Ooh, because over 500, close to 550,000 have already died. And that's just reported. And you have those who are suffering right here, right now, this moment. And for whatever reason, we cannot make amends to them. We will never be able to make amends to them. Because either we can't go see them. They already, transitioned. And can you imagine the guilt, the shame, the remorse that people are having? I have empathy today. I can only imagine. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. But there is a solution, and we can find spiritual healing in these 12 spiritual steps, dealing with any and all physical conditions. Even if the person is not here, even if the business has gone out of amends to them in one way, shape, form, or fashion. So that fourth category says, people we may never be able to make direct personal contact with. Ooh. Okay. And let me do this last section let me do the last narrative of this section. I say these dentures will listen. They be wanting to fall out in my transparency. Look, I'll take them out. And you'll see during some of my podcasts, I do take them out or they fall out. But guess what? Just to prove a point that my teeth don't make me, my clothes don't make me. Because Donald Lawrence says we are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings living and walking encased in this natural experience. That's why God uses me, because he know I ain't afraid. I ain't intimidated by no man. I can be transparent to a fault, some people will say, but not in God's eyes. So this is the last narrative of this section. Okay. It says here, and we're going to apply COVID-19 to it, okay? You are going to get to practice the principle of courage while working the 8th step, because you can't restrict your list only to those amends that you think will turn out okay. Let me repeat that. You are going to get to practice the principle of courage while working the 8th step, because you can't restrict your list only to those amends that you think will turn out okay. Remember to be incredibly honest. That's the only way you and I are going to be set free, is to be totally honest. Even if what you discover is the truth and is painful, even if what you discover in the truth is painful to accept. But pain becomes the motivating factor and challenge you to grow spiritually, increase your spiritual maturity. Yes, obtain that spiritual transformation and get that psychic change. The truth will set you free. It says here, as one of the AA old-timers in my group will say something like this: the truth is going to set you free, but at first it may sting a little bit. You hear me? So when I go back to my family members, when I go back to the people that I possibly infected, if I go back to the people that I stole their serenity, their peace of mind, knowing that they could possibly have it, when I go back after making this list and describing the situation, I will be honest, I will be transparent, and I will become willing to make amends to them all, regardless if they accept it or not, regardless if they are here or not. I can begin to heal myself spiritually. And when I do it for myself, I can extend it to others, whether it's received, accepted, or not. Now that's growth. All right, so tomorrow, if it's God's will, that we are joined on day 106, right? We are going to apply COVID-19, where it talks about forgiveness and a bunch of cool spiritual principles. We are going to apply this section to COVID-19. That is going to be followed by the questions and actions for step 8, repairing burned bridges. Yes. And if we have time, if not tomorrow, day 107, if he allows us to be reunited, we're going to finish up step 8 regarding COVID-19. Yes. Yes. Because we don't want to have to look over our shoulders no more. No more. And that's why practicing these principles in all our affairs, yes, can save your life, save the lives of your loved ones, and save the life of yours. So if we do this individually, as a family, as a community, as a city, as a state, as a culture, as a country, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of the devastating impact, effects, outcomes, and fatalities of COVID-19. So let me ask you the question now. Are you in the prevention, intervention, or restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you being proactive, inactive, or reactive, or responsible regarding COVID-19? Only you can answer that question. So remember to wash your hands, wear the mask, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. Yes, I showed you my shot, right, that I got the second time around. So if it's God's will that we are rejoined tomorrow for day 106, please be safe. Please be safe. If he breathes life into you tomorrow morning and me tomorrow morning, wake you up and wake me up, we will get more energized, more inspired to learn and apply and practice these 12 spiritual principles to any and all physical conditions, especially and specifically to COVID-19. Let me thank my sponsors and show you my vaccination before we close out. All right. So, I tell you, boy, I get energized, right? That's the power of these principles, I tell you. So I want to thank MDB Associates with Dr. Mary Douglas Bailey, Patchwork Human Services with Ebony Marjorie, Levante and Dorsey and Associates, Academy of Peace, my dear friend and spiritual advisor, Dr. J. Macklin, Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant, Free to Hope. I want to also include women do haul transportation services, right? I want to acknowledge Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgan's of Delaware, Lady T at Morgan's of Delaware, Jewelry by Catherine Butler. I want to add two other ones, Accessory, Jones Accessory in Philadelphia, and Tamika Strickland Morning Inspiration Scriptures, and close with Divine Light Recovery Center. So, in terms of being safe, please be safe. And let me end by showing you how I received a shot of hope.
All right. Look at it. She's at the red button. Gotcha. All right. Okay. Let's get you a little shot of hope here, my dear.
Did you hear that? A shot of hope. So until the next time, be safe and do the simple suggestions offered by the CDC. Be blessed and be safe. Whew, I tell you, boy. Okay.